Hello and welcome to my presentation on the film Sleepy Hollow. So, the film Sleepy Hollow is a 1999 gothic supernatural horror film directed by Tim Burton. It's loosely based off of Washington Irving's story of the same name, and it is very loose. It mostly takes the name of a few characters and the general basis of the Headless Horseman and leaves it there. But the story goes in 1799, a police constable by the name of Ichabod Crane travels to the town of Sleepy Hollow to investigate murders caused by a so-called Headless Horseman at the behest of proving his science and that it is the proper way to investigate. So my main point is that as the film blurs the lines between life and death, it also blurs the line between gender stereotypes in the characters. And to start with, we are going to start with the main man, the ghost, the Headless Horseman. He is actually both ghost and undead, depending on which source you read, so we will refer to him as both here. That is because he has a body in the grave which he does not resurrect from, which is typically how the undead, they keep their bodies. But the ghost is very tangible. You can touch him, you can fight him, he can interact with carriages, fence posts, things like that. But he does have rules. He does have the ghost rules that it requires him to have. So these rules are that his skull, which obviously is separate from him, whoever keeps that commands him through witch spells. And as such, his modus operandi is that he beheads his victims, with one exception where he cuts a man in half because he was attacking him. He takes those heads because he's searching for his own, and so he is keeping these ones in an attempt to replace his own, even though he knows that they're not going to be his own. It is, at this point, ingrained to hold on to them in hopes that perhaps he will find it. And because, so he is a ghost that is being sprung from hell, because he is hell associate, he is weak to holy ground. There is a church, because this is a primarily Dutch farming community, so there is a large church that he cannot get access to, and it is a focal point in the movie, but we're not going to get into that. And the basis for this Headless Horseman is primarily Northern European folklore, the German Brothers Grimm stories, Scandinavian Wild Hunt, and the Irish Dullahan. And they all are associated with death through hunting, which is basically what the Headless Horseman is doing. And then to get into his backstory, as any good ghost story does, he is a unnamed Hessian mercenary. He's sent by German princes against American soldiers during the American Revolution. And he's well known, obviously, as this ghost is known for brutal beheadings at full gallop on horseback. He just swings either his sword or his axe, which you can see him in both pictures, at people as fast as he can, as many as he can during fighting. And he does it just because he likes doing it. He's not there for money, he just wants to kill people, which we can sort of see in how much carnage his ghost wreaks. And he was murdered in 1779, which we will get into in a moment. Also, I'd like to point out, I'm going to point this out throughout, the Headless Horseman, both alive and dead, is wearing all black with a little bit of red, but that black is a focus point for men in this story. Adult men are primarily dressed in black. Women are dressed in softer colors, usually pastels or anything light, not very dark. And that's going to be where we see this blending of gender stereotypes. So here we can see Ichabod next to the grave, the tree. Here's him coming out of the tree, out of hell. It's very bloody, it's a mess. And then this image here on the bottom left, this is him after his skull is returned to him. You can see he has these very sharp teeth, which again, something he did in life to emphasize that he just wants carnage. And then this bottom right This is seconds before his last battle, before he is eventually beheaded, and we can see these two little girls, which we'll get into in a minute, but they are responsible for him being found by the American soldiers that killed him. Okay, we're getting into the commander, the witch, the one the horseman has to follow, and her name is Lady Mary von Tassel née Archer. She's the second wife of Baltus von Tassel, and she is part of a set of witch twins. They're the only actual practicing witches in, like, proven in spell work in this movie. So her whole deal is that she wants revenge because Peter Van Garrett, the first victim, and everyone associated with him, he's the center point, kicked her family off the land after her father died, and they were unable to continue paying him. So she wants revenge. She wants his property, his wealth. She wants everything, and she's going to use the horsemen to do it. And to prove this point, she poisoned Katrina's mother to marry Baltus, Katrina's father, after her mother got sick and she was brought in as a sick maid. And she is responsible for the horseman's murder. So you can see these two twins that we just saw behind the horseman. Mary is the one on the right here breaking the twig, which causes that snap, which alerts the American soldiers, and then this is her unnamed twin sister. We never find out her name. Directly next to it, we see Mary and her twin sister, and you'll notice, twin sister, all in white. Mary, black and white. Black and white. She is more man than woman in her motivations here, especially considering she's killing her sister with an axe. She killed a servant woman with an axe as well. And we can see she's also holding the horseman's skull here. She's the one manipulating him. And this bloody murder spree is all on her hands. And then this bottom picture from the end is her working her spell magic with Katrina's hair, because she has to bind something of the person to the horse alongside the horseman's head to give that connection so the horseman will hunt them down. And then moving on to our main lead, the constable, Ichabod Crane. He is the forefront at pushing science into police investigations in this time period where religion is still mostly reigning supreme. He's very squeamish about what he does. We can see here, primarily black jacket, a little bit of white. We can see his scientific bottles of stuff, which they don't get into heavily in what it is, but yeah, this squeamish aspect is what we would mostly see in women, as we can see here in the bottom left, where this is after he's seen the horseman for the first time, and he immediately faints, like 2 seconds after this. So we can see on both right pictures, this is the first time that he really sees a corpse on the field. This is where he's dissecting a woman's body to figure out, what's going on and to further uncover. And then again, top left, we can see him with his bottles. He's showing how he does science. But he's very squeamish in what we would expect more so a woman would be like rather than a man. And he sort of grows out of this as we get further in the movie, but he never truly does. So, and you can see in the bottom left, he is exposed in his full white shirt. So very much less masculine and more feminine. And contrasting him is his love interest, the protector, Katrina von Tassel, daughter of Baltus, only child. She, despite being in this very pale light, we do see a bit of dark red here with the roses. She steps forward when grown men older than her do not. She investigates despite the risk to her life. Ichabod literally says to her, "I'm twice the man for you being here," or at least along those lines. She is encouraging, and so much so, she's placing protection charms from the book she gives to Ichabod from her mother on Crane and her father and the whole of the community within the church when it comes down to it. And she is Crane's savior. As we will witness, this bottom right, that's a bullet that Mary attempted to shoot him with. This book is the book that Katrina gave to Crane. And then these are the two protection spells, which they didn't really work, but they were an attempt by her. Also, what's interesting to note, again, very white, very light. Here we still have white, this is a blue, so this is about the mid to right before the main confrontation of the film. We see this blue, she's starting to move into that masculine point. It's where we really see this protection stuff coming in. Then this happens, and then at the very end, we see her in this dark, well, it is black, this black and white stripe, as she is arriving to New York with Crane, who's still a little bit of white, a lot of black. Now she's evenly into that. She's fully the protector of him because she has succeeded now. 2 failed attempts, full success. So it really goes to show that Sleepy Hollow is bending norms that we would not typically see bent, especially for a time period piece such as this, where it's literally the year before 19th century starts. And it's quite interesting to think, especially in the case of Mary and Horseman, because Mary is stepping into the masculine role of the aggressor, and she is committing violence against everyone around her in ways that we do not see stereotypically for women, which is usually quiet. But we can see that Katrina's way of protection is quiet. It is what we would expect of a woman, but it is a man's role to protect. So it is definitely something interesting to think about for a movie that came out in 1999, especially in the gothic supernatural horror genre. And that is all I have for you today. These are the 2 sources I referenced. The Bloody Battle of the Sexes is where I found the notes on the costuming choices, which I thought were incredible. So I do encourage you to read that if you have a chance. Thank you.